When considering the issues coming on the horizon that we'll all inevitably face, especially as we begin to enter into 2022, how does one prepare for and even embrace the seemingly overwhelming challenges we can see coming? So let's talk about it. If you're new to this channel, my name is Chris, and on this channel we discuss emergency preparedness, aka prepping. Typically, I try to release these videos on Sunday. Obviously, I'm a day late, so my apologies. I usually try to do a Sunday video where I'll tie everything that we discussed in the week in kind of a non-scripted type of video where what I try to do is give a source of encouragement to pull everything together and again, try to tie it up in a bow and provide some encouragement to help you implement what we've learned. Now, last week we covered skill versus gear. That was the topic that we kind of repeated over and over on the channel. Last week I led off with a poll discussing skills versus gear. If you want to go back and look at that, there was a lot of responses and a lot of good feedback. And last week we did a video discussing some practical skills to start learning. In a recent video, I also discussed practical steps you can take now to prepare for 2022. And the week before that, we discussed the 10 challenges we'll face next year. So you kind of can see the pattern, I hope, that we're discussing what we're going to be facing. We're talking about skills versus gear, and then we get into specific different types of skills that you can learn. Now, between all these various discussions over the last couple of weeks, the different videos, the poll, I'm sure it can feel overwhelming. And the question obviously comes up is how can someone do all these things when it feels like the timeline is accelerating to be prepared? In this community, there's a lot of videos coming out to encourage people, or rather admonish people to get ready. Something big is going to happen. And what I purposely try to do is keep these videos simple. Specifically the video last week discussing the 5 things that you can do to prepare for 2022. And in that video, we covered 5 main things. And if you want to go back and watch the video, I'll post a link in the cards above. But if you want the simplified version, it came down to simplifying your finances, handling your food, understanding where it's coming from, how to cook it and prepare it. We talked about health. We talked about storing up food and water and gave some simple gear advice. And in summary, we wrapped it up discussing skills and knowledge. And this was on purpose. I wanted to try to keep the goals achievable and realistic. It would be easy to throw all these different items that you need to do, this list, these different skills that you want to go out and learn. And when I sat down and tried to prepare this, I tried to ask, how do we simplify this down so that the community can understand? And in saying that, over the years, I've really come to enjoy getting to know you, the community, hearing your feedback. And I hope in all this process of doing the videos over the years that I can impart some encouragement in these non-scripted videos that we do once a week. I haven't been really consistent in cranking them out on Sunday, and I'll try to get back into the flow of creating them. But again, my hope is that I can wrap everything up and provide some word of encouragement to kind of, again, pull it all together and to help move you forward. In saying that, I've been prepping for several years, and there are a lot of challenges I personally have had to face. And there's challenges periodically that I'll face one area over another. Some challenges are becoming more problematic, whereas some things I've learned how to master and overcome or develop and to build skills. In saying that, I'll be open about some personal challenges that I'm facing as I look into 2022, different things that I know that I need to work on. And, I'll start off by saying it's overwhelming. And again, if you've watched any of these videos and you've looked at what's coming on the horizon, for me, I personally feel like that I'm not far enough along in where I want to be, but that's okay because again, I've tried to stay steady and I've over time grown, I've matured, I've increased skills, I've developed different preps that looking back even a year ago, I wasn't really where I am today. And here are the things I'm personally working on lately. I'll start off with finances. I recently, unfortunately, my wife, her credit card, or rather some of her personal information got compromised and some of our different accounts got hacked. And it forced us to sit down and really kind of take a fine comb and look over our credit card statements, our bank statements. And we found where there was someone, that had used that information to make some purchases. Fortunately, we caught it before it got bad. But in the process, the good news is that we found some holes in our finances where We were spending money on things that, primarily recurring memberships and things that we had at one time set up and completely forgot about. And I say all that because, again, it's caused me to have to sit down and reevaluate my finances. It's something I should probably do more often. Whenever years ago I started studying different financial gurus, their encouragement was always sit down at least on a monthly basis and reevaluate finances. And if you haven't done that in a while, I would highly encourage you to do so. It's an eye-opening experience when you begin to realize, wow, we're spending money here, 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 and should we really be spending that amount of money? And if we just make simple changes, which we did, it's helped tremendously. I'll lead into the next point about physical challenges that I've had. Now, a couple of months ago, I shared at the end of October, I did a marathon. First time I ever did a marathon, and probably the last time I'll do a marathon. But since that time, there's been a few challenges physically that I've had to endure, some injuries. Now, going into the marathon, I had a torn meniscus in my left knee, and that was an injury I already knew about. Honestly, it's taken about a month for that to heal up, where I've been able to comfortably walk again. I've gone over to bicycling. I've moved away from jogging to give that knee some time to recover. I've had some injuries in my right shoulder from years ago, from waiting tables in college, doing a lot of things. I used to carry a lot of stress, and I've had to go through PT and learn how to rehab that shoulder and kind of open it up, because I've had a lot of issues with it clenching up. Had some recent lower back pains. Fortunately, one of my best friends locally is an OT, and he was able to help me diagnose and resolve that without having to go into the hospitals and dealing with that. In talking about skills, there are some skills that I've wanted to pick up for next year. And again, we've listed out some different skills in the video last week, some practical, what we hope is practical skills to help you get started. But for me, one of the skills that I want to begin to go after, and I shared this in the video last week, is Emt Training. I always share this on the channel because I want to put it out there so that you guys can hold me accountable. Because I know if I go into next year, I'll get into something, I'll get busy, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I'll get to that. And I somehow or another always procrastinate. But for me, the reason I want to do this, and I've shared this before on the channel, my background, I was a pre-med student. I did my undergrad in microbiology. I was planning on going to medical school. And I did my MCAT in the spring of 1999. It was spring or summer. And I applied to medical schools, and I was going to begin the process. I sent my applications to medical school, and I was going to start the process. And I ended up at the last minute deciding to back out. Actually, now that I remember, I did my MCAT in 98 and applied to medical schools in 98. Sorry, it's been a few years ago. All that to say, I ended up deciding not not going into medical school, not pursuing a medical degree. And there's still kind of in the back of my mind the desire to learn medical skills. And so for me, a skill I'm going to pick up on next year and study is going in Emt Train. There's some different junior colleges here locally where you can do that. So, in saying all that, again, I'm just being vulnerable and sharing some things that I'm planning on working on next year. And I would encourage you, whatever it is, your passion, the skills that we listed out, if you're not passionate about any of those, find something that you're good at, that you maybe have a passion for, that maybe you know nothing about, but you would really find yourself, or rather, when you think about it, you're like, hey, that's something I would really like to pursue. I am at a point where I run two businesses. The reason for going in Emt Training is not a career path for me. I have no desire to make that into a full-time living. If you do that for a living, and I know a lot of people do, then that's obviously respectable. I'm only saying that because it's not something that I want to do as a career. It's more of a skill I want to develop. And I plan on working periodically to continue to sharpen that skill. Now, the next item is water. And we talk about this all the time on the channel. I've had some setbacks there. I had a water storage structure, and I've talked about this a few times in recent videos. I had someone come in, we built a shelf, or rather a unit to hold 9 55-gallon barrels. And when you start doing the math, I was like, geez, that's over, and we did the math in advance, but I looked at the structure and I was like, I'm not comfortable filling that up. If that thing tips, it could do a lot of damage. So I decided to tear it down last weekend, and we're going to rebuild shelves in my garage. But all that to say, it was a little frustrating because things that I had planned out, spent a lot of time and money, and ended up not working out. Despite the setbacks, and again, I'm sharing this with you to share some setbacks. Despite all that, I've taken a new plan, a new approach, and I'll build accordingly. And I'll be sharing that here in a couple of weeks on the channel. And the biggest one, and I saved this one for last, probably the biggest setback and the biggest challenge I've had as of late, is buying land. At the beginning of the year, this year in 2021, I did a video talking about some plans that I had to buy land. And I've kind of done updates throughout the year talking about the progress and what I've learned. I've gone out, I've studied and looked at a lot of land, and for whatever reason, something does not feel right. And again, this is for my area locally. Land has shot through the roof. And the challenge, if you've ever gone and bought or tried to buy raw land, you know that it's hard to get a loan unless there's some type of structure, because the bank looks at that as something that, they're taking a risk, right? You're not living on that unless you have a structure. So you have to pay a lot of this out of pocket up front. And the prices of land out here have gone up astronomically in the last 18 months. So for me, I just don't feel this is the right time, but all that to say, it's still something I plan on working on in next year. And I've read some comments from people in some of the videos that they've been frustrated with that same thing, that land has gotten out of reach. And it seems like a lot of people are picking up land more and more as they can afford it. So again, just being transparent, it's something I'm working on. I've learned how to be comfortable where I am right now, living in suburbia. And it's caused me to internalize more and more, to sit down and realize I've got to learn to work with what I have. Because in my mind, I thought, well, land will be the backup plan. There's not really much I want to do with my suburban lot. I think we're on about 8,000 square feet. But as I sat down and kind of reevaluate, there's a lot I can do with what I have. And again, that's what I love about prepping. It's learning to be resourceful with what you have. Now, having said all that, I'll acknowledge sometimes it does feel a bit overwhelming. And all these lists of items that I went through, I know they can come off sounding sometimes like a first world problem. I do feel very fortunate where I am in life, that I have my health, I have, my family, we have a solid income, things I've built over the last 15 years between businesses. We're in a good place, I'll say that. And I know a lot of people are in much more challenging conditions. But all that to say, despite the setbacks, despite the challenges, I choose to continue to move forward. And I wanted to share these things with you, to be upfront that, again, like the community, I have my own set of challenges. There's things I'm working on. Things have not always gone the way I've wanted to. But despite all that, I choose to push on. And again, I appreciate some of the challenges that you, the community, have shared with me. Recently, in some comments, I've had people share some of the different physical challenges they're facing. And when I can, I try to provide a word of encouragement. And, the response back has been great. Again, last week, when I started having problems with my lower back, it was demoralizing, because I thought to myself, geez, if I start having back problems, that's it. It's going to really be more difficult. Long story short, my friend was able to diagnose, again, he's an OT, that due to the fact that I'm often working behind a desk, I started having some compression issues on my lower back, and through a series of stretching techniques that he showed me, I was able to resolve that seemingly within days. But again, some of the other physical challenges I have, they require more work. And again, I say all this because it's easy as a YouTuber, someone that sits behind a camera, that talks to a camera. It's easy, and I'll acknowledge this, to put on a show that we a lot of times make this, and I have to admit, as someone that does this for a living, that I've become, I've gone full time with this, that it's easy to sit down and put on a show and to show people rather what you want them to see. Not everything is perfect behind the scenes. I'm not saying that my life is horrible by any stretch, but I have my own set of challenges. And again, I'm just trying to pull the veil back a little, and I'll continue to do so with this channel. I'd rather be upfront and honest that, yes, I've got my own things that I've got to work through. And in saying all that, just like you, I've got to continue to push ahead despite the challenges. And these videos on Sunday, I know today is Monday, I hope that they can be a source of encouragement to you as we go into into this next year. There are a lot of challenges on the horizon for sure, but I would encourage you, don't lose hope. I find it so interesting that different mainstream media outlets are beginning to acknowledge and talk about a lot of these challenges that we've been talking about on this channel for years. And saying that, for me, when I have setbacks, when I look at the challenges on the horizon, and as I mentioned a moment ago, I've got different challenges I face. What helps me personally is keeping my eyes on the goals that I have. And I think it's so important, no matter where you are, what set of challenges, find a goal that you feel is doable or realistic within a certain time frame. And that's why I always encourage people, don't just say, hey, I want to be at this place. I want to do X, Y, and Z, and make it vague. I always encourage people, and this is one of the things I've learned through years of studying different self-help books, is set actual goals to say, look, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to be. And this is the steps I'm going to take to get there. It's, for me personally, it's done wonders. And the next point, and kind of wrapping this up, I will acknowledge this, that it's easier to sell and to use fear in this community. And maybe I'm being too vulnerable and too honest here. And I say sell fear because I always try to be so careful when I sit down and I look at how I'm going to present a video. There is a degree of clickbait, I'll acknowledge, that you've got to draw in people's attention, because I've watched and I've done plenty of videos where you can provide almost a source of encouragement to say things are going to be good, and those videos, they just don't get they don't get a lot of watch time. I did a video several months ago explaining, because I did a series of videos explaining why there's a financial collapse or potential financial collapse on the horizon. And I wanted to balance it out with giving a video explaining why there won't be a financial collapse. And the videos that talk about the negative, those videos went well into the 6 digits as far as view count. I think some over 100,000. The one where I talked about, and again, trying to give a fair and balanced approach of why the market wouldn't crash, I think that video somewhere around 15 or 20,000. Nothing in comparison to the others. And I say all that because we have to acknowledge that in this community, we do focus on the negative. And let's just all be honest here. It's easier to pitch and to sell the negative. And that's something, again, that I hope you can listen to and find that, again, I tend to be very introspective, and I realize that it's easier for me to focus on the negative, but I have to learn to find something to be encouraged about and focus on that. And I'll finish up by saying this. What's something that you need encouragement for? Again, it's easy in this community to focus on the negative. And I'd love to find ways that this community can help you. If you want to post something in the comment section below that you need help with, that you need encouragement with, I would encourage you to post that below. I enjoy hearing back from you, and I would encourage the community to provide some source of encouragement to some of the comments. Again, I try my hardest to read as many of the comments, and as the channel grows, that's become increasingly difficult. And there's some great subscribers that I've found over the years. Unfortunately, there's some that come in I have to block, that they become so negative and so detrimental in the comments that it's just not worth it. And I would encourage you, if you want to post something below and you want to go in the comments below and try to help, I would encourage you to do so. I know again, we often focus on the negative, but here's an opportunity to focus on the positive, provide some positive feedback. If you have any thoughts, any feedback, any comments, please post those below. I know this is not my typical type of video, but usually on these Sunday/Monday videos, I'll try to do a little more of a personal kind of one-on-one video. If there's something you want to hear more discussed kind of in a non-scripted way, feel free to post below or contact me. If you can go to the About page or the About tab in the community tab in the YouTube channel, you can find my contact information there. As always, please stay safe out there.